Hi there, my name's Sam. As part of my third year sports science degree at Bangor University, I've been asked to create a podcast on something to do with the outdoors environment. So this podcast will look at the basics of whitewater kayaking. It is aimed at people who have done some whitewater kayaking before or just getting into the sport. It's very important that if you're not aware of the safety issues involved with whitewater kayaking or the equipment you should wear, you might want to think about reading up on some relevant literature or taking part in a course beforehand. So let's get started. Moving water is graded from Class 1 through to Class 6, with Class 1 being defined as a body of water with little energy and currents that can be ignored, through to Class 5 being defined as a section of water where size and severity of the features have increased to a point where a line down a rapid needs to be scouted and even the best line through may not be safe. Although paddling Class 5 and 6 whitewater is an entirely different prospect compared to paddling Class 1 and 2, the skills used and learnt in this environment are just as important when kayaking harder stretches of moving water. It is important to understand how the water is moving around. One important feature to be able to recognise is an eddy. Eddies are formed by an obstacle in the water that forces the current around it, for example rocks, trees, sharp corners and even bridge pillars. The water will flow around the obstacle and recirculate upstream to form a sheltered area. Eddies are good places for groups to rest, regroup and break up a whitewater rapid. The main flow is the deepest and strongest part of the downstream flow. Towards the edge of the moving water, the current is weakened by obstacles and usually becomes less powerful. Before kayaking in a moving water environment, it is a good idea to learn the basic strokes you'll need beforehand. Being able to relate the speed of your kayak to the moving water is very important. This can be achieved by imagining that your kayak has 5 forward gears just like that of a car, with first gear being the slowest and fifth gear being the fastest. Find an area of flat water and practice paddling at each gear until you are happy that you have established what speed each of your 5 gears will be. The second major flat water skill that can be learned is called the low brace turn. This is a combination of a sweep stroke and a low brace. This is what enables you to break in and out of the currents. The first thing that you need to do in order to achieve a low brace turn is to provide forward momentum to the kayak. This is so when the edge of the boat is initiated, it will catch and cause the kayak to turn. Once you have built up some speed, initiate an edge by lifting your right or left knee depending on the direction you wish to turn. Once the edge has been initiated, a low brace can be used to support your kayak whilst on its edge. A key point to remember at this time is to look where you want to go, as your kayak tends to point in the direction where you are looking. A sweep stroke can be added on the opposite side as you are about to initiate your edge to help turn the kayak and mimic the downstream flow. Whilst watching the demo shown, try to pick out only 3 things at a time to remember, focusing on the paddler's boat, body and blade. Do this with the sound muted. When performing any of these tasks, remember to always keep a good forward body posture and practice the skill on both sides. Once you have mastered the basic flat water skills, you can then start applying these to the moving water environment. Breaking in and out of the main flow is the first thing that should be learnt. This can be achieved by applying the previously learnt flat water skills into a moving water environment. In order to break in and out of the flow successfully, a paddler must learn how much edge, speed and angle is needed. The amount of angle needed can be determined by imagining a clock face in the main flow, with 12 o'clock being directly upstream and 6 o'clock being directly downstream. Depending on which side you break in from, aim your kayak at a number in the top quarter of the clock, for example 1 or 11. Also, depending on the speed of the main flow, this number may need to be increased or decreased. For speed, you can relate back to the 5 gears from earlier. Try and relate your speed to the main flow. For example, if the main flow is very fast, a high gear will need to be selected to make sure that your kayak is able to completely leave the eddy and allow you to initiate a good low brace turn. When initiating your edge as you cross the eddy line, the key thing to remember is to lift your upstream knee, as engaging the incorrect edge will cause the kayak to flip. Breaking out of the flow into an eddy is just the same as breaking in, remembering that the water in the eddy is flowing in the opposite direction to that of the main flow. Ferry gliding a kayak is the ability to get from one side of the main flow to the other. It's achieved by having the correct combination of edge, angle and speed. The amount of angle needed can again be determined by using the clock method. An angle set at around 1 to 2 o'clock or 10 to 11 o'clock should be correct for the ferry glide. For the ferry glide to be successful, the kayak must stay at the correct angle all of the way across the flow. If the angle is too great, then the kayak will peel out of the main flow and head off downstream. Too little, and the kayak will stay in the mid-flow until the angle is adjusted. The amount of speed needed is related to the speed of the moving water, so pick a gear that you think will be suitable. For example, if the main flow is so fast that you cannot paddle upstream, a high gear will be needed so as little ground as possible is lost. It is very important, just like when breaking in, the upstream knee is lifted, putting the kayak on a downstream edge to avoid a capsize. When performing a break-in, break-out or ferry glide, it is very important to look where you want to go. For example, when ferry gliding, pick a target to aim for on the opposite side of the main flow. This will help to ensure that the kayak's angle and edge is maintained. Also remember to practice all of these skills on both sides.